Today we're with local business news and Michael Lope from Sullivan Sons Funeral Home, Royal Oak and Utica. And I wanted to chat with you starting out with the last 3 months have been crazy with pandemic. How has the funeral business changed in 90 days?
Well, obviously it's changed a lot. What we're doing right now, versus sometimes where we might be face to face doing something like this. This has been a big change for us, even, with funerals. One of the biggest things that we've done is every single funeral that we have conducted over the last 3 months, we've included in that a live webcast. So in years past, people have done webcasting, of course, and that's nothing new for us. But now it's every single service that we do has been webcast, or at least offered to the family as an option for webcasting. So that's been a big one. The biggest thing for us, though, is unfortunately trying to navigate through what we're being allowed to do. It's not so much that it's us not allowing things, it's more the state saying to us, or the CDC saying, you can only have 10 people here, 10 people there. And for us, I think that's been the biggest change, is that, we're accustomed to welcoming people into our facilities and going into churches and halls and having large crowds, not always, but in the majority of the cases, having large crowds and welcoming them into the funeral home. But unfortunately, right now, we're really being kept to that 10-person limit and trying to keep with it as best as we possibly can. So that's the biggest one, I think.
Yeah. Now, do you think moving forward, how do you think things are changed? Should a pandemic like this keep funerals, changed, or can we go back to something more traditional and for a lot of people more comforting?
Right. And that's actually been a big topic of conversation, not just in our funeral home, but I think nationally. We're, of course, members of associations on the state level and the national level, and that's something that we've all been talking about is, are we setting this as a norm now, or is this more of a temporary thing? Our feeling is that we hope that as soon as we get the okay, that people will want to come back into the funeral home. But we certainly understand that that these are personal preferences and personal decisions for people. So we don't know exactly how it will all play out. And we're trying our best to just make sure that all of the options are available to people, still giving them those options of sort of keeping it small or maybe pushing something into a digital format. But our feeling is that, or our hope is that we'll be able to allow people to do exactly what they've done traditionally in the past. But our business has been evolving for the last decade with or without a pandemic. So there's been a lot more cremation, a lot more off-site memorials, things that are being done a little bit differently in terms of maybe folks would go down to Florida and have a spreading of ashes down there, or burial of the cremated remains in the sea. So there's a lot of things that have been happening in conjunction with the pandemic, and I think that's sort of just pushed things a little bit quicker than what I think most of the folks in our industry were prepared for. But we're just hoping that we'll be able to invite people back into our building and have people be able to hug and shake hands and eat together and have the traditional services that we think are very helpful for people to navigate through a death. So.
Yeah, personally, my sister-in-law passed during the pandemic, and it's one of those things like how you can't hug people, right. You can't comfort anybody, and so the process of mourning has changed tremendously. And have you noticed like people struggling more, or is it just something that they're dealing with, or how is that, like, the mental part of it?
No, I think you're absolutely right. In fact, there are some pretty renowned grief therapists that have commented on this and taken notice of it and tried to help funeral directors to be able to help families better. But you're absolutely right. I think just one of the biggest things in grief is having community and having people to be able to share and to celebrate. We've talked a lot, and as I mentioned, there's been a change in funeral service over the last few years. And one of the biggest things for us is going from the traditional service more to a celebration of life and being able to celebrate that person. And when we can't do that in a setting where we're having comfort and having hugging and sharing of stories, it definitely, without a doubt, does impact the grieving process. So our hope is that, and we're sending out letters to folks here now as we start to open up things, inviting them back into the funeral home if they want to come back and have a celebration of life at a later date. We're also setting up some things near the end of the year where we're going to give larger groups of people that have had similar experiences hopefully be able to come together if they want to share those experiences. And we're doing things a little bit differently with our grief support. Our grief therapists have started allowing, if people want to, like Zoom meetings, one-on-one calls, as opposed to coming together into a group if they're not comfortable with that. But there's no question that not having any sort of service affects the grieving process. That's a fact. So our goal is to just try and give them some options to hopefully be able to deal with that a little bit better.
And how do you see the Sullivan Sons going forward? Are you planning for future changes, or are you just kind of rolling with it right now and seeing what comes, and then adjusting to that, or how do you plan for something like this?
Well, you can't. It's just like everybody else. I think for us, it's the same as everybody. It's a day by day thing. We literally have been communicating with our management and our ownership on a day-to-day basis, seeing what fits for our families, what works for our families, what we're able to offer to them, and what we're not able to offer to them. And even like, it might be this week we're talking with a family and saying, yeah, unfortunately we can only have 10 people in the building, but by next week it might be 100. So we certainly have plans and sort of a outline as to how we want to be dealing with things moving forward. And there are changes from the traditional in there that I think will be here forever. But in terms of dealing with this right now on the level that we're dealing with it right now, it is a day-to-day thing. And we're just doing our best to make sure that we can give families the information that is up to date and pertinent to what they are looking for their loved one. Because what you got to remember for us, of course, our business is trying to be able to give that information to families. But for the families, they're not as concerned with that. Their concern is they just lost a loved one. And for us, our focus still has to be on that family. Of course, there's a lot of external things going on, and we have to be aware of it and up to date and be able to inform them on what they can and cannot do. Mm-hmm. But their focus is really on their family and their loved ones. So we have to make sure that we remember that's our focus still. And that's what we've been doing for 115 years. So yes, we are changing and making changes and thinking about the future, but we kind of have to really stay in the moment and think about that individual family and that person that we're serving at this time.
And last time you and I chatted, when we wrote the article, you talked about the community presence that Sullivan and Sons has had over the last more than 100 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, how do you guys feel about getting back into that? Are you excited? Do you have plans? Can you just not wait to get back into that? And, you're smiling already.
Yeah.
So,
it's interesting because we had so many things planned for this summer. We had an outreach program for clergy where we were going to be at the Utica baseball stadium down the road from us. We had some picnics planned. We had a lot of different things that we were thinking we were going to be able to do for people. And then, unfortunately, when that got, shut down, our instant thought was, okay, how are we going to get back to being able to do these sort of things? So yes, we have a lot of plans, and we want to get back in the community because for us, that's huge. We've always relied on being part of the community and making sure that we can help people. But again, we want to do it so that we're not putting our staff or our family into harm's way. But we absolutely want to make sure we're getting back into it as soon as possible because that's a big deal for us. We like doing it. So.
Okay. And just tell our watchers here how they can get a hold of you should they need, some guidance if they have a tragedy or, if they just need somewhere to maybe even reach out, say, look, I'm having a hard time dealing with my grief. Do you know where I can go?
Yeah, so that's a really good point, and what we have told people as they try to reach out to us is there's lots of avenues for this. We can always, and we've been doing this with funeral arrangements too, not just in terms of talking with folks about pre-arrangements or arrangements at the time of need, but we've basically given them three options. We can do a lot of this digitally. So if people want to talk to us via email or even text message, believe it or not, we've been doing a ton of texting through this whole thing, which is kind of new for us. We're more of a meet face to face and talk on the telephone, but we've been doing a lot of texting. We've been doing a lot of emailing. Of course, our natural thing is we always invite people into our funeral home. We're okay with folks coming in here. We will be wearing masks if they want us to. We'll provide masks if they need them. But we always want to make sure we're available. So in person, email, text, over the telephone, you can always get a hold of us. We also have a lot of good information on our website. So if you just go to our website, sullivanfuneraldirectors.com, we have a lot of grief resources on there. We even have something called daily affirmations, I believe it is. It's a daily email that goes to you to help you with grief support. So if you don't have that interaction with the community right now, even just that simple email every day that you get from us, 365 days of grief support, those sort of things help out too, I think. And that's all digital. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We definitely appreciate your time and you being there for the community and being ready for when everything opens up.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us. And obviously, as we talked about, we're always available. All the funeral directors that I know have had similar experiences, and all the funeral homes, I think, in our area. We're really blessed. We have a lot of great funeral homes in our area. So always reach out because we have resources for people. We have things that are available if they're looking for it, especially on the grief side. I just spoke to our grief counselor today, and they are opening up their group sessions again next week. So always reach out if anyone needs help from us.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Good talking to you.